Take it any way
he's already
you want.
there, isn't he?
Okay, well, he's there in a certain way, but I'm not there. You have Obama there. And frankly, that whole part of the world is a mess under Obama.
Now, Donald Trump got heat for this interview. The New York Times ran the headline, Donald Trump gives questionable explanation of events in Ukraine. But let's dig into the substance here, because Trump appeared to be taking a position that has been heard before in the foreign policy establishment. Ian Bremmer is on the line. He's with the Eurasia Group, a political risk consulting firm based in New York City. Mr. Bremmer, good morning.
Morning to you.
So many critics said yesterday that based on his comments, Trump seemed to not understand or know much about Russia, know much about Ukraine. What was your take here?
Well, I mean, he has gotten advice directly from Kissinger, and this position is aligned.
Henry Kissinger, a former Secretary of State and well-known, maybe better than anyone in the foreign policy world.
Indeed. And, I mean, you know, I read the David Sanger interview in the New York Times last week where, I mean, a lot of what he was saying, when you actually parsed through it, was sort of aligned with some of what Kissinger has been saying as well. He's been a noted Kissinger opponent of Obama's policy on Russia, and specifically in terms of the fact that Ukraine should not have been something we were sanctioning. We should have made it a buffer state between Russia and the Europeans. Donald Trump, now clearly the most well-known person out there, who's making this argument, albeit not that articulately.
Not that articulately has been one of the other criticisms, but if he is indeed making an argument that Henry Kissinger has made, I mean, it sounds like perhaps people are too quick to dismiss his point of view. I mean, these are sort of legitimate arguments that pillars in the foreign policy world have made in the past.
Look, there's no question that when it comes to Crimea, there are people out there that think that effectively the Americans should have let it go. The majority of Crimeans are Russian speakers. Frankly, they didn't want the Soviet Union to collapse. It was an autonomous republic. The Russian version of the Russian tricolor used to fly above it, even when the Ukraine was before all the annexation. But let's be clear. What's interesting about this is not only that Trump misspeaks a lot. It's also that the only leader in the world that Trump seems to speak well of is Putin. Trump has made very clear that values don't really matter in terms of American relations with other countries. And so, you know, whether you're an ally or not, if you're not giving us a good deal, it's incredibly transactional. I mean, Trump's foreign policy and worldview is more Chinese in orientation than anything else.
Well, let me ask you exactly what he might mean here. I mean, you know, you say he talks about Vladimir Putin, he praises him. So Trump makes the point that when Russia took Crimea, you know, sure, it broke international law, but as you said, many Crimeans feel this emotional tie to Russia. Many Crimeans wanted to be part of Russia. I mean, given that, but given that it was such a violation of international law, what do you think Donald Trump would do in his relationship with Putin that would be different than what we've seen from say, President Obama?
It'd be radically different. I mean, you'd look at NATO countries that were much more concerned about the willingness of the Americans to defend them, and therefore, do I think the Russians would send troops into the Baltics? No, but I think they'd be much more willing to be aggressive in this gray zone. I mean, you know, in Ukraine, did they ever officially send troops into southeast Ukraine? No, but they had these little green men that turned out actually were Russian soldiers that were quote unquote on vacation, according to the Russian defense minister. Would we see more of that kind of behavior both in Ukraine and in the Baltics that, you know, Trump would say, why are we responding to? What do we care? Yeah, I think you probably would. And I think that the transatlantic relationship, which is the most important, has been the most important alliance in the world since World War II, and is presently at its weakest, for reasons both because of the United States and because of Europe, would continue to deteriorate. So, I mean, you're really looking at a much more fragmented world, a world where America clearly is not anything close to the global policeman or the global architect of trade or the global cheerleader for values. And as a consequence, it's kind of an every nation for itself environment.
All right. Ian Bremmer, thanks so much for talking to us. We really appreciate it.
David, my pleasure.
Ian Bremmer is with the political risk consulting firm that's based in New York, the Eurasia Group.
And every year in Pakistan, hundreds of women are killed in what's known as honor killings. Now, a high-profile honor killing has people in Pakistan focusing on how to end this practice. A social media star there called Qandeel Baloch was strangled by her brother because he was upset by her sexually provocative and very popular videos and selfies. NPR's Philip Reeves traveled to the region where she's from.
It's a summer's day in South Punjab. Village boys frolic in a muddy canal. We're in the middle of Pakistan, in the countryside. Amid the mango trees and sugar cane, there are mud hovels and Sufi shrines. In cyberspace, Quandeel Baloch was about mischief and glamour, a performer using girl power to champion women's rights in a new age. Yet she came from the old world, a place of poverty and illiteracy, where feudal tradition often supersedes the law of the land. When Qandeel's brother appeared unrepentantly before the TV cameras and said he had murdered her, there was an international outcry. Round here, men see things a little differently.
Here, old customs and traditions rule.
Shabir Ahmed, a small-time landowner, is sheltering from the sun in a village tea shop.
We think this murder is justified. The point is, we're Muslims, and she crossed a line.
That's right, says Ghulam Yassin, a carpenter.
Absolutely.
Do you think that would be the view of most people here?
Yes.
And everybody's nodding. Quandeel Baloch was the victim of an age-old tradition that has nothing to do with the official legal system and isn't really about Islam either. It enables men to exercise sovereign rights over their families and to kill those who they think have violated family honour. After her death, Pakistan's government announced a long-delayed law aimed at curbing honour killings would likely be passed by Parliament within weeks. Many here question if government promises mean anything.
I do not believe in an iota of what they say.
Mukta Mai lives in a South Punjab village, some 50 miles from where Qandeel died. Mai runs a school and a women's shelter.
They often say they've made a new law on this or on that, but this is just for the books. They're not actually implemented.
In 2002, Mukta Mai was gang raped as a punishment ordered by a jirga, a council of male elders, because her kid brother was accused of dishonouring a local family. Instead of committing suicide, as many victims do, she filed charges. Her campaign for justice won international acclaim, but her case is still in the courts. So far, only one of her 14 attackers has been convicted.
It is very difficult to get justice. Very difficult.
Mai says what she calls feudal lords, big hereditary landowners, are a major part of the problem. They enjoy immense power in South Punjab, unofficially controlling the police and the jirga system, says Mai.
Feudals here are the government.
In cases of honour-related violence against women, they usually side with the abusers, Mai says. This is where Quandeel Baloch was murdered by her brother. It's a small rented house in a narrow alley outside South Punjab's main city, Multan. Qandeel came here to celebrate the Muslim holiday of Eid with her family. There's peeling paint, there are wires hanging off the balcony, there are pools of water, there's mud, and there are chickens wandering around. Sabah Munir lives opposite the house in which Qandeel was killed, along with her pet parrots. She rarely goes outside, and only ever in a burqa. Speaking through a grill in her window so she's not seen, Munir says she raised the alarm when Qandeel was murdered.
Her mother came to tell me about it at 9:45 in the morning. They were obviously very upset. Her father was crying.
Munir was stunned. She sometimes saw Qandeel through her window.
She seemed happy.
Munir wants Qandeel's brother jailed for life. She also wants an end to honour killings, though she thinks that'll be very difficult to achieve.
Our family and caste rules means people don't give the government information. People sort out matters in jirgas and cover things up. What can the government do?
Pakistan's Human Rights Commission keeps count of honour killings. It says since Quandeel Baloch's murder just over 2 weeks ago, there have been 20. And those are the ones we know about. Philip Reeves, NPR News, Multan.